Page 30.
All right, we're now going to continue looking on page 30, and again, I'm going to follow through with the readings, and that which deals with syllabication, unless it's something unusual, I'm going to do it orally. So that's a good exercise as well. You don't need to see the blackboard all the time. Hopefully, you have enough information down, and if necessary, you write down what I would say. But it's the oral presentation that I'll try to be very slow about and careful. And if I feel it's necessary, I will use the board again. I'm looking at page 30, and again, you have the system that's in the coffin system. You have the unvocalized, and then you have the vocalized side. Okay, the first one is Boker Tov Esther. Notice that the unvocalized Hebrew has the Vav after the bet letter to imply the O sound, whereas the vocalized Hebrew has the Midah Cholam. The Midah Cholam, as we told you, without exception, when it appears, should be accented. And indeed, in the coffin has that accent over that first of the two syllables of the word Boker. So Boker, not Boker, but Boker, Boker Tov, good morning. Esther is the person being addressed. And look at the name Esther. CVC is the first syllable. The Aleph, the Shego and the Aleph, close by the Shvanach and the Samech. Then you have the Dagesh Kau and the Tav, and you have the CVC with the second syllable. The second phrase is Boker Tov Yaakov. The Yaakov word we did a number of times. The short vowel Patach underneath the Yud, closed by the Shvanach underneath the Ayin, but the Ayin gave way to a Shvanah. It's called secondary opening, or in Hebrew, Skura Bakoch. So it appears to be irregular, the CV of the Ya, but it is potentially closed as originally was a Shvanach underneath the Ayin. Then Boker Tov Rachel, Boker Tov Moshe, and then again Boker Tov Javid. So what you have here is the phrase Boker Tov, and the names already were given in previous readings. The next paragraph, Erev Tov, and again she shows the accents on that first of the two syllables. Why so? A short vowel sego is irregular if it's an open syllable, and so it tracks the accent. Erev Tov Leah, Erev Tov Rina. Look at the name Rina, Dagesh Chazak in that nun. The short kirugonic resh needs to be part of a closed syllable. Likewise, the next line, Erev Tov Hana. The chet letter has a patach, closed by Dagesh Chazak in the nun. Erev Tov Moshe and Erev Tov Yosef. The next paragraph has words of Shalom, Shalom Yosef, and then we have a phrase Lehit Ra'ot. We'll put that word in the board in a second. Lehit Ra'ot, C-I and CVC is the first syllable, CV and CVC is the third. Name of the person is Dalia. Shalom Moshe, Shalom Hana. Notice Hana's name, Dagesh Chazak and the Nun. Shalom Miriam, and then finally, Lehit Ra'ot, done. Let's take a look at that word, Lehit Ra'ot. Lehit Ra'ot means to see one another. Lehit Ra'ot. It is a common phrase that's used whenever you say goodbye to someone. Meaning by that, you're going to expect to see the person again. So, see you again, Lehit Ra'ot, to see one another. If it's not going to be seeing one again, then it will be characteristic to say shalom. Shalom would be more permanent. Shalom. I mentioned already that shalom is the greeting that you give when you write a letter. At the start of a letter, you say shalom. At the end of a letter, you normally would not say shalom again. You'll say kol tuv or the best or words like that. But the word lehitraot is the infinitive of the root resh aleph hey. Any word that has the resh aleph hey is the verb to see. And lehitraot is the infinitive of that verb in the hitpa'el form, which we know nothing about. But the form is lehitraot, to see one another. The lamed is the equivalent of tio, and the hit is the reflexive form or the reciprocal form of a binyan conjugational pattern called the hitpa'el. So these are markers of verbs. And so you have CVC here. But notice the lamed starts the syllable. You then go on with shwana. Then you go on with the hit. The shva underneath the letter following a short vowel is going to be seen as a shvanach. Second syllable is CV, the resh with the kamatz. And the third syllable is CVC. Accent on the last syllable, long vowel close, needs to be accented. And many Israelis have a tendency of shortening that word. Instead of saying the hit, they'll say the hit. But the word means to see one another. Then there's another phrase, lehishtamea. Again, we're going into grammar that we don't know yet. Lehishtamea. Here you have the phenomenon of stolen pata. The root of that word, lehishtamea, is shin mem ayin. It's the same conjugational pattern, the hit pa'el, only it involves the root shin mem ayin. And as you can see, you have the replacement of the tav letter by the shin. They reverse their position. This is something you'll learn when we get to grammar. But to break into syllables, it's C ayin, CVC, C shvana, constant chirik, shvana underneath the shin. Then you have the CVC. See the patach there, closed by the shvana, closed by the geshazak and the mem. Then you have the CVC here, with the patach here understood to be a stolen patach. Lehishtamea. And lehishtamea means to hear from one another, or call again, to hear from you. Lehishtamea. To see one another is lehitraot. And the vocalization deals with the different families of verbs. Okay, I continue. So the last line that I read is lehitraot, see one another. Lehitraot dan. Let me just close the pen up. Okay, these pens become penless after a while. I have to close them up to save whatever ink or whatever you call it is in the pens. Okay, we then continue now on page 30, exercising how are you, Mashlomcha David. And now if you look very carefully in the Mashlomcha David, you'll notice there's no dagesh kal in the letter Dalet. How come? Again, it's following the vowel of the word before. But you'll notice there's like a little comma saying Mashlomacha, pause, and then David. So I see no reason why we don't have a dagesh in that Dalet, following the examples above, where David and Dalia, beginning a word, have a dagesh kal. The only explanation is it's following a vowel. That vowel causes the next word, mega kefet, to become continuant. But she's not consistent with this, or doesn't explain it. So how would a beginning student or any student know this? I'm observing it. I have a little knowledge in this area, and so I call it to attention. So how are you? Ma shlomecha. Not shlomcha, shlomecha. The long vowel holam, the shvana follows the long vowel, treated as a shvana. Ma shlomecha, David. Response, shlomi tov. I am good, I am well. And her translation is fine. Then she adds the word todah, thank you. Well, the Hebrew doesn't have todah here. Shlomi tov. Todah is implied, I guess. But if you want to write it out, shlomi tov, todah. Ma shlomecha dan, and then shlomi tov. Ma shlomcha Moshe, shlomi tov. And then when it comes to the female gender, the word is not shlomecha, but shlomech. Ma shlomech, Rachel, tov todah. And what do you know? In the case of the feminine gender, Edna puts in the word Todah. In the case of the masculine gender, we don't have Shlomi Tov Todah. Is it because males don't have sense and don't say thank you? All right, that's it. I doubt it. It's just an inconvenience, I guess, to write an additional word Todah for more lines. So then don't translate it as thank you. But it's implied, I guess, so she does. That's where inconsistency for beginning Hebrew can be a confusion. Back to the reading as written. Mashlomech Rachel, Tov Todah. Mashlomech Miriam, Tov Todah. Mashlomech Esther, Tov Todah. Of all the names, each one of the female names, like each one of the male names, has a history, has a story that goes back to biblical narrative. Rachel is a U, E-W-E, suggesting, if you don't mind me saying it, that good old Jacob having two wives, that wife number one, the oldest sister, not the desired bride of Jacob, but following tradition, the oldest sibling gets married first. So Jacob had to wait for his beloved Rachel. And Leah comes along, oldest sister must be married. She's like the old animal, the old cow, you might say, the old beast. But she also produces among her children the tribe after whom Jews are named. Yehuda, Judah, and Yehudim, Judeans or Jews. Rachel, on the other hand, is the mother of the two youngest children, Joseph and also Benjamin, Benjamin, son of my right hand. Back to names right now. Miriam, we already discussed with you, drawn from the bodies of water. And then there is, well, the name Rachel is a U, E-W-E, like a young lamb, I guess, showing that she has productivity and beauty. She's young. She's not old. And Esther, the name associated with a book that's named after her. Two of the Hebrew books of the Bible have women names. Esther is one, and the other is the book of Ruth. But Esther is not even Hebrew. Esther is Astarte, or Astarte, a goddess. And before you know it, what's all this about? The book of Esther lacks the name even for God. It clearly is a book of Jew hatred, where God's name and presence is conveniently left out of it, suggesting the absence of God for this thing to happen, or suggesting God cannot get involved, suggesting that the Israelite himself must do what he has to do, including assimilate into the culture that hates you. Mordechai with Marduk, and Shoshana is her Hebrew name. It's mentioned once in the book of Esther, now called Esther, strictly a non-Jewish name, Astarte. Mashlomcha, David, as I continue, and the response is Beseder. And I guess what you have here is you have the translation of the word fine by the word Beseder. I don't see the word Beseder at all in the paragraphs before. What's going on here? Nothing except the use of colloquial language. Fine, thank you is used by all these paragraphs, even though the word thank you is not found in Hebrew, and the word beseda, which means in order, everything's okay, fine if you wish, is also missing. It's her way of using colloquial English, though the Hebrew doesn't have the specific word that translates as it. The word beseder will be the word for order or fine, but I don't see beseder in the paragraphs before, where she translates in English fine, and she translates in English thank you, which is the Hebrew word todah. So we'll just do the Hebrew. Ma shalomcha, Notice the ma, notice the patak, notice the dagesh chazak in the shin. Notice the word ma is not an individual word, it's attached to the word that follows, ma shlomcha. An English equivalent, what's happening? What's happening? What is happening? Separate your three words. No, what's happening? We jam the words together, ram them together. Mashallah. The word ma is rammed into the next word, and it's treated as if it were the first syllable of the next word, hence the dagesh chazak in that shin. The hey letter is divisive. It's not a real consonant. It's a marker of the vowel. Beseder, beseder. Notice how I read the word beseder. I'm not saying beseder. The tseri letter is a medial vowel. A medial vowel must always be accented, at least most of the time. The medial cholam always accented, and the medial tseri most of the time. As I pick myself up, to let the angel in.
You're getting your exercise today.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I get a knock on the door twice, I say to myself, the angel is knocking. Why is it that he cannot go through the door? Why is it that he forgets his key? Why is it, which is another way of saying what I'm going to reveal right now, Im Yirtzeh Hashem, God willing. Professor Abe Garber's next book is The Problem of Evil in Scriptures. I already have one article that's been published that's going to be released for publication. I'll be writing two more articles. And the one article that will introduce the book has the title, It Is Not in Heaven. It is not in heaven. It begins with the word evil. It's not in heaven. Angels are on earth. That's why they can't open doors. I never thought of it that way. The blessed ones have no position on earth. Stay away from earth.
Although here, each angel is based on their mission.
This is a serious statement. This is a serious statement.
Based on their mission, that's what they do. Let's focus on the
Yeah, well, you're getting focused right now. Door gets locked every time you leave the room here, as if to protect the Mashiach that's sitting here. All right, we're back to our Hebrew again. Anyway, we've done a lot, but the words, the English phraseology, how are you, is written in Hebrew. Words like fine and thank you, she uses in translation, are completely missing in the Hebrew. So we explain it's just simply colloquial to have it in Hebrew as well. And the word todah will be thank you, and the word beseder will be fine. And she introduces the word beseder on page 31, second to last paragraph. Though she uses that word fine, translating beseder, in previous paragraphs without even writing out the word in Hebrew. Same thing with the word todah, translates thank you. Anyway, back to the word beseder as I look at it. Again, there's inconsistency. Look at the paragraph, second to last on page 31. Mashalom Macha David. There is nothing there. Beseder, she does not show the accent over the tsere in the word beseder. But the next line, and the next line that follows it, she writes that word beseder, and she shows where the accent is. Why is she not consistent? Again, it could be forgetfulness. Again, it could be done marking this word at different times. So one time you're more cognizant, the other time you're not. The idea is with unvocalized Hebrew, it makes no difference. You don't mark anything, no vowels, nothing. My job is to make sure you're consistent. Every time you see that word beseder, the accent is on that first syllable. Why? The tsere attracts the accent. Has nothing to do with being irregular. The last line, manishma. Manishma is a very common phrase. You have the phrase ma shalomcha, how are you? But people often say, what's happening? Or she translates, how are things? Or if you want to be literal, what is being heard? The word shema is to hear. Manishma, what's heard? Tell me what's going on. That's a common phrase Israelis will greet you with. Manishma. They don't give a hoot about how you're doing, your health. That's mashalomcha. but rather, what's the news? What's happening? What's the latest? Manishma. And again, look at that mem letter with a patach, and look at the word nishma, that gesh chazak in that nun to close the short vowel underneath the word that precedes it, the word ma. And then the response is hakol b'seder. The word hakol is a new word for us. It's related to the word kol with the short kamatz. The word kol with the short kamatz is every. Kol tamid, every student, kol tamidim, all the students. Hakol means everything or everyone. Here she's translating it as everything. Hakol.
It also means everyone or
It
everyone.
also means, yes, Hakol has a double meaning. Everyone or everything. You will not know the distinction between the two unless you have more words in that sentence. And let me just make a point right now, because when I can say it again, I'm not sure. But as long as we have that blackboard, as long as I'm told stand, sit, and stand, I will show it to you. That word code, watch Hebrew grammar now active. The three spellings I'm going to give to that word code. Spelling number one, short kamatz. Spelling number two, as in the word hakol, miduchalam. Spelling number three, as I write a chumutz, as in the word kulam. All three words are related. The word kol with a short kamatz means all. Hakol means everyone or everything. And then with pronominal endings, we spell it with an u. Here we spell it with a miduchalam. Here we spell it with a short kamatz. They're the same words vocalized three different ways and different meanings. This is with a pronominal ending, all of me, all of you, all of them. This is everything or everyone. And this means all, followed by the word that follows. But what's connecting is the O sound. Or, O, U. Not really, but you have to imagine that. It's just interesting that one word has different vocalizations and how it's used as a word. Okay, let's go on with the words. Hakol b'seder, everything b'seder. All you want to translate as everyone is all right. I see nothing wrong with that either. And then the word in chadash, there's nothing new. Suggesting what's going on, manishma, in chadash. It's a characteristic response. You don't want to tell what's going on, you just simply say in chadash. Nothing is new. The word ein by itself is singular or plural. Ein means there is not or there are not. And this phrase here, nothing is. Todah, next page, Adoni. And that word Adoni page 32. That word Adoni without vowels can easily be slept into the word Adonai. If you write out the Yud He Vav He, write out the four letters, you spell it the same way as you see it there. Adoni, which means Lord, my sir. So what's the difference? Adonai is a plural word. Adoni is singular. And here is where my angels go wacko. The four-letter name of God is not pronounced Adoni. No, it's pronounced with an I at the end. That implies a plurality. Are you trying to say, Professor Ze'ev Garber, who wears a kippah in class, that Hashem is plural? The three persons of the Christian unity? Am I saying that? But that's how you're implying it. So let me make a correction right now. The plural in Hebrew can also be a corporate plural, like in the word news in English. The S implies always a plural, but it's used in English in the singular. News is good. I just find when I read Hebrew spelled out Adoni, it looks so familiar to the four-letter name of God spelled out. Just make an observation. Aulo davar. Aulo davar, she translates as You are welcome. Al lo davar means on, not a thing, literally. Al means on, lo means not, and davar is thing. Al lo davar, the Hebrew for you're welcome. So da gevirti. Gevirti is the word geveret, word which means miss or Mrs. My miss, my man, my madam. She doesn't show us the word my. She just says there's the word ma'am there. Al lo davar. You're welcome. Again, Edna is using contemporary Hebrew phrases. Literal Hebrew will be on not a thing. And that word geveret. Let's get that word down. We've had words such as yalda. Yalda is a young girl. Or maybe we have not. Let's get down some words right now. The word yeled is a young boy. Yalda would be the equivalent to young girl. The word na'ar is youth. Na'ara is a young girl. It means a beyond 13. Let's put it that way. A na'ara. The word na'ar is normally translated as youth. So the feminine one would be na'ara. Then you get married, I guess. You have the ish for husband. You have isha for wife. Then you have words like gever. And the feminine form would be geveret. And then the pronominal ending, geverti, means my geveret. She translates it as ma'am. Okay, it's a different approach, or better, different translation with some of these words. And I'm trying to be as faithful as I can to the Hebrew that I understand, or alternate phrases. Okay, Mashimecha Gevirti, Mashimecha in the case of feminine. There is a response is Shemi Esther Kohen, and then Efo Atkara. Where do you live? The word gar, masculine singular, gara is the feminine singular. And in response, Ani gara bechefa, be'eza rechov, eza on which rechov, Atkara. So to be specific, be'eza rachov. But rachov would mean on which street. But when they say rechov, the street is implying a name. So Rehov Hayam Street. Okay, the next paragraph. Boker Tov Moshe. Here you're going to have unvocalized Hebrew and spelled out differently. That word Boker, for example, with vocalized Hebrew, is a Mida Cholam. And by this stage of your Hebrew studies, it's understood that you know it's a Mida Cholam. The way it's written out here looks like a long Cholam, but it's Boker. If you had the vocalized Hebrew alongside the unvocalized, you could double check it that way. Now, at this stage of the Hebrew studies, with different classroom exposure again and again, by now you learn to know, you've mastered that particular phenomenon. I read unvocalized now. Boker Tov Moshe, Boker Tov David, Manishma, Beseder. Here she takes phrases from the different vocalized paragraphs. And then several new phrases. Chag Sameach, happy holiday. Gam lachem, also to you. Masculine plural, which can also be a mixed plural, female and male together. That word Chag and Sameach. Let's get those two words down. This is a new phrase now. Chag is the Hebrew word for holiday. Chag. You use the phrase Chag Sameach by all holidays, or most all holidays. Chag Sameach, happy holiday. If it's a holiday that has a name to it, which all holidays do, then you can add the name in the middle. Hag Shavuot Sameach. So each holiday has its own additional name to it. But Chag Sameach itself, if you don't know a specific greeting for that holiday, just simply say Chag Sameach. And let's look at the word Sameach. You have the sin letter, Kamatsunik the sin. It's not being closed, open syllable. Medial Kamatz, open syllable, is accented or one place removed. The accent's on the next syllable, which is CVC. Don't be thrown by the het with a patach 100. Last letter laryngeal ayin or het having a patach 100 is a stolen patach. It's a glide from the A sound here to the last letter. We don't say samecha. If this were truly a vowel, it should be samecha. It's not sameach. It's a glide to the last letter, which really should be written this way if you want to be more specific. A patach and then the letter het. But stands by itself. It's floating. It's not really a vowel. It's from the saying of the word. And so we write it underneath, but it's treated like a non-existent vowel. It's called a stolen patach. All right, I go on to the next paragraph. Slicha. It is slicha Adoni. And then the word Cain, yes, slicha. If shall shevet. I looked at the English, I couldn't see the Hebrew at first. If shar is the Hebrew word possible. If shar, like she says, or may, shevet, the Hebrew word to sit down. If shall shevet. Rega, rega. Rega means a moment or a minute. Adoni, savlanut, patience. She's using here different phrases. The lines are not necessarily connected one with the other. So let's read that again. Slicha Adoni, Ken. Slicha, shall shevet. Rega, rega. And then you have the words Adoni and then savlanut. All right, we continue to read one or more paragraphs, and then that should be it. On page 34, Sicha He, Makara, what happens? Shum davar, not a thing. Shum davar. Efshar lashevet, bevakasha. Manishma, ein chadash. Okay, new word here, makara, what has happened? The word kara, she might have used that word in her vocabulary in her readings before, but for our purposes, we need to have it controlled. There are two words that sound the same. The word to read, which we had already this hour, spelled with an aleph. The word kara, spelled with a hey. When it comes to Hebrew grammar, this is called a lamed aleph word. Verbs that end with the letter aleph. This is called a lamed hey verb. It affects the conjugation of the verb, or you can use it as a verb. But this deals with happening. This deals with calling or reading. And a good example of this word in a synagogue is the reader of the Torah, who's called a master, a Baal Koreh, master of
What's the
reading.
difference between, how do you say that, the Baal, and then the idol of Canaanite, the Baal?
The word Baal, in all cases that the word Baal occurs, is the same word. The word Baal is was a supreme god of ancient Mesopotamia. And consequently, when the word is borrowed into Hebrew, that word Baal is used as an adjective for Hashem, the master of the world. The word Baal is used for a husband. He is responsible for what goes on in the household. Any role of a master.
Oh, it was Baal Peor. Baal Peor. That was the name of the
Yes, Baal Peor.
Yeah.
Anyway, the word Baal also means owner. It has multiple meanings that's taken away from its divine association. And the Baal Koreh is not just someone who reads Hebrew like Zev Garber, but one who has mastered the ability to read the unvocalized Hebrew words, not of a newspaper, but of the Torah.
But before that, they have to learn the trope and
Well,
the look.
naturally, you have to go
They've
through,
sitting
well,
down
of
for
course, you have to go through a lot of practice. You can't just simply know I'm born in Israel, I know Hebrew, I can read. No, you cannot.
I saw a kid go to the bar mitzvah, and he didn't study properly, and the congregants yelled at him, and he ended up crying. I was like, oh, that was like, they were rude.
And well, I don't know what happened when before he reads the Torah scroll. There should have been a testing, or there should have been a questioning. Did he prepare the ability to read the Torah without?
But you know how it is when you get to the task. Sometimes you get nervous. It's like standing on
That's
top
another
of the hill.
factor.
You know, you get nervous,
That's
and
it.
it affects your ability.
But a bar mitzvah boy or girl, whatever bar mitzvah, because I've seen that too. They'll read a few lines. They'll read the Haftorah part. They'll read the Mafta part. The Mafta is one thing, but
Yeah, so some of them,
at the very
they'll
end,
read a few lines, but usually the standard is you read three sections, three out of the seven, three sections, and then somebody else will read it, and then some people that are exceptional will read all seven.
if they're capable.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, some just read.
It's very hard for me to imagine a bar mitzvah boy reading the whole Torah for the first time in his life as bar mitzvah.
There's some that do it, and they're very good.
Unless there's a good Mizrahi tradition that insists on that.
I see a little kid that's only like about 4 feet high. He's like 11 or 12. He's better than most of the professional Hazans. That kid is like.
Then he's been prepared for it.
Yeah, it's like incredible. And they're like, wow.
Well, it's no different when it comes down to the Muslim boys who read the Quran day and night. And it doesn't shock me if it's Moroccan, Mizrahi, whatever, because that's part of the Arab world too. They don't watch television, they just learn, but today it's different. It's rare and it's very beautiful to understand that. But I would think that there'll be a little understanding before they even let them do all that.
What are you gonna do? People don't prepare. It happens. Like when you go take a test at the DMV and you're not prepared, what happens? You fail it, just take it again. But with that, we'll wrap up the class. Any closing thoughts?
Well, basically, let me just see what we have here. I think I did with the word kara. Let me just see if there's another word that could be Amanishma, in Chadash, etc. Okay, let's end with this one. The actual reading here on page 34 at the end are words like Bevakasha, please, the word Manishma, what's happening in Ein Chadash. I would agree with all these translations or the implications, except when it comes to Ein Chadash. Professor Zev Garber has a hard time saying, quote, there is nothing new. Every moment, every second of my existence, something happens, something unusual, and therefore something is new. I don't have an hour in my life where new things don't occur. Impressions, words, missing, pain, don't know what to say. That's life. If things don't happen new, then life has come to an end. So speak it to the professor.
Life is full of challenges.
Okay.